Hello and welcome back to Politics Corner. And in this edition, part one, actually of two editions, we're going to look at the problems with the Northern Ireland Executive, the structural problems that stops them being effective in carrying out good government. And part one is mainly going to deal with the fact that the Northern Ireland Executive Committee is an enforced, artificial coalition. Most coalitions around the world are carried out between parties who have some sort of ideological overlap, that they can overlap their outlooks and create common policies. So, for example, if you look at Spain, Spain's Prime Minister is Pedro Sanchez of the PSOE, the Partido Socialista Obrero Español. That impressed you. And he's in coalition with another left-wing group called Podemos. Now, because they're both left-wing, that means that they're able to create common policy platforms and that those policies are able to be enacted into legislation and decision-making. But in Northern Ireland, we don't have that. First of all, it's an involuntary coalition. They are only in coalition because the Good Friday Agreement necessitates that. The finer details of the Good Friday Agreement stipulate that it has to be a power-sharing coalition, and that is the only reason that they're sharing power. They would not be sharing power under any other circumstances. Particularly if we look at Sinn Féin and the DUP, they have absolutely nothing in common. So in that role, it is very much involuntary, and it's artificial as well because there's a huge gap between the main parties that are there. They don't agree on many, many issues, and of course then this leads to ineffective decision making. So it's a five-party coalition, but we're probably going to concentrate on the gaps between DUP and Sinn Féin. And we're going to look at three areas where I think the artificial and involuntary nature of this coalition cause problems. And the first is in basic policy. I mean, if you have a diametrically opposed policy issue, well, then it's going to be extremely difficult to come up with a way forward to progress the issue, to solve the issue, or even to have continuity in government. And the most obvious example of that is in education. After the 11 Plus was abolished by Martin McGuinness in 2005, we had no agreement between the DUP, who are pro-selection, and Sinn Féin, who are anti-selection, in terms of progressing education policy. And we're actually left with the situation that even today, we don't have an agreed government position on transfer. So in actual fact, we have no government on transfer. We even have the absurd situation whereby when Sinn Féin stopped having the education ministry, it then went to the DUP. And we actually saw a complete reversal in policy. Same government, but a complete reversal in policy. And that is a really strange situation to occur. The second issue where it causes problems is with identity issues. We've got to remember that the Northern Ireland system actually rewards the biggest groups for playing up to their tribal group. And we see this in all sorts of areas. So on flags and parades, all of a sudden the DUP will take a very hard line on the flying of the Union Jack and also the parades issue. I'm not for one instance suggesting that they don't genuinely think that, but they play up the issue because they know in the end that gets them votes. The same as Sinn Féin in the Irish language. And I suppose if we go to the ultimate identity issue, the constitutional issue, there's going to be a difference there too. The third thing is a sort of legacy of enmity from the Troubles. You've got to remember that both groups spent over 20 years kicking lumps out of each other, metaphorically. And it's very, very difficult for them to work together. Alex Kane, the unionist commentator, has repeatedly said about how he thinks the DUP and Sinn Féin despise each other. And so it's very, very easy to fall out. There have been instances of poor relationships. We only have to look at Arlene Foster with Martin McGuinness. That actually helped to bring the executive down. And there were many times when Robinson and McGuinness had a frosty relationship. And it seems that if they get the chance, they will attack each other. I think the best example of this was after there was a shooting that the IRA was blamed on by the PSNI, and the DUP refused to work with Sinn Féin in government. Now, that's a fair enough position if they want to take that, but at the same time, there were 400 jobs being lost in Michelin and Ballymena, and the DUP had the Ministry for Enterprise under Jonathan Bell. And so there you had a situation whereby they had walked out, abandoned their posts, and yet at the very same time, there were 400 people in what might be described as a unionist constituency of North Antrim who were getting no representation from their government, simply because the DUP felt it was more important to press home that point about Sinn Féin's links with the IRA and whether the IRA still existed than to carry out effective government. So the whole artificial nature of the coalition causes many, many problems. It's not their only problem, but it's their most deep-rooted problem. So that's it for in terms of the artificial involuntary coalition. And in part 2, we'll look at some other issues that are causing the executive to act in an ineffective manner. So I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.